I'm going to start off with one of my favorite quotes of Reagan. He once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day, in our sunset years, we'll be telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free. That statement by Reagan is as true today as it was when he first started more than a generation. Free men joined together in 1776, and they fought a revolutionary war for us to have the freedoms that we enjoy today. But out of that war came a constitutionally based federal government. The states and we the people through the state delegates chose what rights to give to our federal government. And they were few and limited and enumerated in our Constitution. But we have strayed so far from that constitutional foundation. We have a federal government that believes it has the military power to do whatever it leads the politicians, what they believe is best for us. And if these last 2 years have taught us anything, is that we have to rein in the federal government. We have an out-of-control, reckless, and irresponsible federal government that is being spurred on by the likes, yes, of my opponent. My opponent is one of those who either doesn't see the danger that we're in, or he's choosing to ignore it at our cost. Our federal government has truly become intolerable. Our founding fathers, when they fought that war, they fought it because there was a tyrant king who was not passing laws for their good, who was taxing them without representation, who was quartering troops on them, who was burning cities and destroying lives. Is it so very different today? When we have an invasion at our southern border, we have American citizens being murdered by illegal citizens or illegals that have crossed the border. Just not recently, we had another Border Patrol agent that lost his life because of the open border. That has to stop. We will have a Republican tide come November, but who do we want to be part of? We want more rhinos. We want more Republicans who don't stand for limited government, who refuse to secure our borders, who allow the radical left to indoctrinate our kids with critical race theory in schools. Rhinos, yes, like my opponent, who excel at doublespeak, who's out there saying he votes no on anything and everything, while he votes yes on spending bill after spending bill after spending bill that advances big labor, advances a Green New Deal of the radical left. Who do you want representation for rights, the backs of our military, fight for to get an actual education in reading, writing, and arithmetic? I have a proven track record of voting for limited government. I vote for less taxes, less regulations. I vote and bring bills for election integrity. As a veteran, I can assure everyone I will have the backs of our military. I will oppose our military being politicized as it is.
Okay.
Our military should be focused on fighting the next battle. We need to prepare them for, God forbid, another war. But they don't need to be concerned about making sure that their squadron is politically correct in the diversity in there. That's not their priority. Samuel Adams once said, our unalterable resolution should be to be free. Have we forgotten what it's like to be free? Have we forgotten the blessings that our forefathers fought and died for to hand on to us? Are we so comfortable and complacent that we are willing to become slaves in order to be comfortable a little while longer, all the while selling out our kids and our grandkids' futures? I hope and pray not. As everyone here knows, I am running for Congress because my opponent has been weak to non-existent on all the fronts that we're fighting to save our country. What about the fight to oppose the idiocy of the COVID mandates? My opponent has not only sat back and refused to lift a finger to help the thousands and thousands in our military that are fighting for religious accommodations, but he refused to sign on and still refuses to sign on to Representative Massey's bill opposing that. He refused to sign on to an amicus brief with the lawsuit out of Texas for our Navy personnel. But not only that, he has gone beyond that, and he has actually voted twice now to potentially strip our military and military retirees of their Second Amendment rights. Now, our forefathers enshrined our Second Amendment rights in our Constitution for a reason, because they knew that other people may want to come along and try to take those rights from us, and so they put it in our Constitution. How dare anyone try to take those from anyone without due process? You cannot say that you support the Second Amendment and vote for red flag gun confiscation orders, period. As far as the military goes, though, he also voted to draft our daughters. He voted, and our military will now have gender advisors. Now, my grandpa served in Korea. My mom served in the Army. I was an Air Force officer, along with my husband, commissioned through Air Force ROTC at SDSU. Our son's now a Navy lieutenant. I know many, many veterans. None of us have ever needed a gender advisor. My opponent has shown that he is not willing to stand up under the pressure to be politically correct. Does everyone remember after the George Floyd incident, all the riots, the buildings being burned, the people being murdered?
Yeah.
And if you remember, Pelosi brought a bill to take down certain statues in the Capitol because that's what we had to do to be politically correct. My opponent went along with that. He was one of the ones who thought that's what we needed to do. If you remember too, President Trump warned us at the time, it wouldn't stop there. Next, they'd be taking down statues of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. Well, he was right. There have been statues of Thomas Jefferson and George Washington removed. We have schools being renamed because they can't be named after our forefathers. They have to be named after some abstract name. It has to stop. Our kids are no longer being taught the great sacrifices made by people like Patrick Henry, who said, "I know not what others may choose, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death." They were willing to lay down their lives. Are we willing to make ourselves a little uncomfortable to fight for our freedom in this country? As Reagan once said, he said, "Man is not free unless government is limited." Every day, our government, at both the state and the federal level, expands more and more and more, and that deprives us of our freedoms more and more. Our military is being told diversity is as important a challenge as China. We watched as one man was able to spend hundreds of millions of dollars to enable fraud in our last election. We're watching as our nation loses what made us great. Our hard work ethic, our independent spirit, our entrepreneurialism. We have to take that back. Our Judeo-Christian values as well. Master Sergeant Woodrow Keeble, he was assigned to G Company, 2nd Battalion, 19th Infantry in Korea. It was a day in October of 1951. He and his company were assigned to take Hill 765 that day. He was in the support element. The attacking element got pinned down. He went forward to see what was going on. From there, he crawled forward, and he not only took out one enemy machine gun emplacement with a well-aimed grenade, he didn't stop there. He crawled to another one. He took out a second machine gun emplacement of the enemy. By now, the enemy is directing all their fire at this one-man unstoppable assault. But he didn't stop. He crawled and he took out a third machine gun emplacement. They were able to take that hill that day because one man's courage inspired them to move forward. One man's courage inspired them to keep fighting. A fellow brother in arms once said of Master Sergeant Keeble, "The safest place to be was right next to Woody." Was he superhuman? Was he abnormally fearless? No. When asked about his call to duty, he replied, "There were terrible moments that encompassed a lifetime, an endlessness, when terror was so strong in me that I could feel idiocy replace reason. Yet, I have never left my position, nor have I shirked hazardous duty. Fear did not make a coward out of me." He's one of our Medal of Honor recipients out of Waubay, South Dakota. It's normal to be afraid. It's It's normal to think that the job is too big, that we don't have the capabilities to do what needs to be done. But just like Master Sergeant Keeble, we have to do our duty. We have to answer the call to take back our country. Now, the battle we're called to take on is different, but it is real nonetheless. We are losing our country. We used to be the freest nation on earth. We are now tied for 15th. While China is sending hypersonic missiles around the world, we don't have that capability. China and Russia are both ahead of us in that technology because we're more concerned about diversity. Our military is being told, other than China, they're told the top 3 other things they're supposed to fight are culture, climate, and COVID. Our kids are being indoctrinated in schools. They're being taken on, I'm sorry, there was an elementary class that was taken on a field trip to a gay bar. Our kids are being told to fill out grids to figure out where they fall on the oppressor and oppressed scale. And yeah, you guessed it probably. The top on the oppressor is the white English-speaking Christian male.
Wow.
That's a country that we're trying to reclaim our country, because that is not the country that we were given, and that is not the blessings that we were given by our forefathers.
Right.
So we are in a fight to take back our country. Are you ready? Are you engaged? Are you knocking on doors for your candidates? If you are financially able, donate. Are you making phone calls and waving signs? There are many great candidates running across South Dakota right now. Many America First, from state legislators to county commissioners. Get behind the candidates that you support. Help them get across the finish line. Because the time is now to stand up and be counted. The time is now to say to the radical progressive left, you have come this far, no more.
That's right.
The time is now to send a message to every politician out there. We are a free people, and we are determined to be free. Thank you so much for coming out tonight, or today. It's still daytime. Thank you so much. And I do have to say, we're going to have to take off. I won't be able to stay for all of this. As the other candidates, we got to get to Spearfish for another engagement, so I apologize for that, but thank you.
Good luck.